Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on the CFP examination. Thank you for participating and showing your dedication to furthering your educational path to become a financial planning professional. My name is Lorene Barber. I am the Manager of Examinations at FP Canada and will be hosting today's webinar. I have 20 years of experience providing training in informal and formal environments for a variety of learners, both locally and internationally. I'm a specialist in the development of fair, valid, and reliable standardized examinations in fast-paced, high-stakes environments with an emphasis in the development, release, and evaluation of certification exams and assessment tools for a broad range of professionals. Presenting with me today is Paulette Anthony, the Director Examinations. As Director Examinations, Paulette oversees the FP Canada's certification examinations and corresponding exam policies with an approach utilizing best practices for high-stakes testing programs. Paulette has worked in the professional testing for more than 2 decades, with a history of overseeing the planning, development, execution, monitoring, and quality control for all components of examinations in professional environments. Naomi Sinclair has administered exams for the past 6 years at a multitude of organizations and is passionate about standardizing candidate examination experiences and quality control. We do have a lot of material to cover today and might not spend as much time as you would like on a particular slide. But don't worry, this webinar will be available for your review in approximately 1 week. Now let's take a look at today's agenda. Today's webinar will present you details on exam format, exam day preparation, the CFP examination structure and scoring, the review of a sample case narrative and its set of constructed response questions, the practice exam, common mistakes, and tips. Let's dive in with a look at the exam format and registration.
Before selecting an online proctored exam, you'll want to carefully consider the requirements to participate. This includes meeting specific technical and system requirements, as well as ensuring your testing environment can remain quiet and free of distractions during the exam. We'll be discussing these requirements in greater detail later in the presentation, and they are also available in the guide to the CFP exam. However, in considering how you would like to write your exam, it's important to know that you as the candidate are responsible for meeting the technology requirements to write the exam via online proctoring, and there are no exceptions for these requirements. Candidates who do not meet the requirements have the option to secure the appropriate equipment or register for a future exam sitting. I'll now take us through some details about the CFP exam administration, including details on the FP Canada guide to the CFP examination and important exam day information. We sometimes hear from candidates that they were surprised by the rules of the examination. You should be expecting a strict environment with procedures and rules. You will be required to sign in, provide current identification, and adhere to the examination day policies. Exam security is extremely important to FP Canada. The FP Canada Guide to the CFP Examination, which is the administrative guide to the examination experience, contains information on what to expect before, during, and after the exam. The guide to the CFP exam can also be found on the FP Canada website. When registering for the CFP exam, if you haven't already done so, you will be required to sign off during the application process that you have read, understood, and agree to abide by the policies and procedures set out in the guide to the examinations. Before exam day, you can review the FP Canada Study Toolkit. Although we do not provide recommendations to specific study guides, books, or courses, you will find a list of all FP Canada's study resources on this page. It's the gateway to the practice exam, sample questions, this webinar, and study tips and resources. For candidates taking online proctored exams, as we've already mentioned, you must ensure that your computer meets the technology and system requirements. This includes having a functioning microphone and web camera, downloading the compatible internet browser, Guardian browser, having a compatible monitor, and an activated and compatible operating system. It is also strongly recommended that you use a personal computer for the examination. If you are using a corporate computer, that is your work computer, you'll want to review the additional guidance found on FP Canada's online proctored exam page to ensure your computer can install programs. Note that there are no exceptions for these requirements, and candidates are responsible for testing their technology and system requirements in advance of exam day. We recommend that you access and use the examination tutorial to become more familiar with the software interface that you'll encounter at the test center. A link to the examination tutorial is available through your FP Canada portal and in the FP Canada Guide to the CFP Examination. You can follow the link, which will lead to a short online practice version of the actual exam software. This simulated version allows you the opportunity to familiarize yourself with the software environment, which should add a level of comfort on exam day. Let's look at the tutorial. This screen shows how a multiple choice question will appear on the exam. It includes a short client scenario and the options to choose from. At the top of the screen, you will see your progress. Here we are on question 3 of 15. To get a pop-up of acronyms and equations, click the I in the blue circle on the bar at the top of the page. With your cursor, you can navigate through the questions by moving from one of the question boxes to another, and you can also bookmark a question by clicking on the bookmark box in case you want to go back to it later. At any time, you can go back and review and change your answers. Everything can be edited up until you submit your exam or until your 2 hours for the session has run out. To submit your exam, you can click on the Submit Exam button on the top right-hand corner, but only when you are ready to submit. This slide shows how constructed response case, its corresponding question and response template will appear on the screen. For those that have previously written an FP Canada exam, note that a separate physical booklet with the case studies will not be provided. The case study narratives will be provided directly in the exam software. For the constructed response questions, you will need to supply the answer to the question and type it in the response template provided. The response template is the placeholder for your answer and is often in table format. Templates are very specific and are designed to help you answer the question in the format required. Additional examples of constructed response templates can be found in your FP Canada portal. You can save your work as you go, but for peace of mind, do know that the system does an autosave every few seconds. Once you have completed the question, you can move on to the next question by clicking on the Go to Next Question bar found at the bottom of the screen. To actually experience the exam software and use its features firsthand, we recommend that you use the free exam tutorial or purchase the CFP Examination Practice Exam. Candidates are responsible for meeting all technology requirements for online proctoring and installing the Guardian browser before their exam. Candidates must ensure their operating system is activated and compatible with the exam software. There are no exceptions for these requirements. Candidates who do not meet these requirements have the option to secure the appropriate equipment or write at an in-person test center or register for a future exam sitting. An unstable internet connection is the most common technology problem candidates experience on exam day. Therefore, it is strongly recommended that candidates connect to the internet with a wired connection via internet cable. A wired connection provides a direct and stable internet connection, which will significantly increase the strength and stability of your internet connection. If you are writing an online proctored exam, you'll need to prepare your testing environment in advance of exam day. It is your responsibility as the candidate to ensure that your testing environment is and will remain comfortable, quiet, and free of distractions. In addition to having a private indoor and quiet location, you need to ensure your environment meets the following requirements. You must have a clear desk or tabletop. You may be asked by the proctor to remove anything from your desk that is not permanently affixed. The areas beneath your desk and chair are clear. The walls immediately behind and in front of you will be clear. Landlines, non-required electronics, and any security or recording devices in the room are turned off. Other household members have been informed of the examination date and time and will remain quiet during the examination and will not enter the exam room. The proctor will confirm that all requirements are met on exam day. If you fail to set up your testing environment appropriately or have interruptions during the exam, the proctor may terminate your session. Full details on setting up your testing environment can be found in the CFP exam guide and on our online proctored exams webpage. You'll also want to ensure your computer station is prepared 30 minutes prior to the exam. It is mandatory that candidates test their exam day computer prior to the examination date. If you are unable to access your examination due to a failure to complete the computer readiness check prior to the exam, you will be deemed a no-show for the exam. The first 15 minutes of the booked time will be for the onboarding process with a proctor from ProctorU. You should begin the login process at least 10 minutes prior to the scheduled start time. Note that there may be a wait time for an onboarding associate. During busy times, the wait time to connect to an onboarding associate may be extended to 20 to 30 minutes. You should stay connected should a delay occur. Any onboarding delay will not impact the time allocated for exam writing, as the exam timer only begins once you've started the assessment. If you fail to log on in the first 30 minutes of your appointment, you will be deemed a no-show and you will not be permitted to write the exam. All candidates will receive an admission ticket and it will be available to you approximately 10 to 14 days prior to exam day. You will receive your admission ticket by email from Measure Learning. Your admission ticket includes important information, including your ID needed to log into the secure exam software, details for setting or resetting your password. For online proctored exams, if you are having trouble setting up your station, confirming preparedness, or connecting to the proctor, contact ProctorU Assessment Support directly. Their live chat is available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Contact details for ProctorU can be found in the guide to the CFP exam or on our website. A frequent question we get asked is, what can I bring with me on exam day? On exam day, only certain items are permitted at your desk space. For online proctored exams, candidates will not be permitted to keep possessions at their writing stations and will be required to move them to a designated storage area. You are permitted to use an FP Canada approved calculator for the examination. Only specific calculators are permitted, and these are listed in the FP Canada Guide to the CFP Examination. For online proctoring, candidates are permitted to use a handheld whiteboard no larger than 8.5 by 11 inches and fine point dry erase markers. You will need to erase any notes or calculations in the proctor's view at the end of the exam. Under no circumstances will you be permitted to keep your cell phones or any other electronic devices other than an approved calculator at your writing station. Please note that if your phone rings during the exam, you may be subject to sanctions, so please ensure it is turned off when it is stored in a designated area. Only religious headwear is allowed, so you will be asked to remove any other headwear such as a baseball cap or toque. The CFP examination is a 6-hour exam divided into 3 2-hour sessions. For online proctored exams, please view your admission ticket or log into the Measure Learning Yardstick platform to confirm your start time. Once the exam begins, you will not be permitted to take breaks, even bathroom breaks. For online proctored exams, there is a 15-minute break, followed by 5 minutes to re-secure your exam room. After a total of 20 minutes has expired from the start of your break, the exam timer will automatically resume, so it is important that you not take longer than a 15-minute break. There are 2 additional features you can use in the software, the notes section and the ability to change font size, which we'll look at next. If technical issues occur on exam day, alert the proctor immediately, and they will be able to assist you. For online proctored exams, use the chat feature or contact your proctor directly for assistance. Click on the clipboard icon on the navigation bar at the top of the screen to access the notes section. You may add notes in here to help you think through the correct answer. These notes will not be reviewed or graded by our scoring panel. To change font size in the software, click on the font icon located just below the navigation bar. Increase your font size by clicking on the large A and decrease it by clicking on the small a.
Now let's talk about exam structure. In the following slides, we'll talk about the CFP examination and share some information about the exam itself, including the CFP examination blueprint and the concept of complexity. The FP Canada Standards Council Competency Profile for CFP certification is the criteria for the exam. It provides a summary of tasks that CFP professionals would do in everyday practice and illustrates the multidimensional nature of financial planning. It details the abilities that a CFP professional must possess and represents not just the tasks, but also incorporates the job-related skills, knowledge, attitudes, and judgments required for a competent performance by members of the financial planning profession. This is a key document in your preparation for the CFP exam, as each exam score point is linked to a competency statement and it is what is tested on the exam. The full competency profile document found on our website provides a detailed description and example of each competency statement and also includes a competency profile matrix listing all competencies and professional skills, which we will look at next. The page shown on the right here details 2 collection competencies in the financial management area, describing the tasks of collects information regarding client assets and liabilities and collects information regarding clients' current and projected cash flow. These descriptions will help you better understand the competencies and how they may be tested on the CFP exam. You can use this information to focus your preparation and identify gaps in your competence and knowledge, and use that to research and to help fill those gaps. This matrix of the competency statements is included in the full competency profile document and lists all the competency statements as found in the full competency profile. Although the matrix may appear small on this slide, you will find it is more legible on the website. Note that we are only sharing the first page of the competency profile matrix here. Within the competency profile document, you will have access to the full matrix. We will take a closer look at this document on the next slide. Across the top, the matrix is divided into columns for 3 financial planning functions: 1, collection; 2, analysis; and 3, recommendation. In preparing a financial plan, client details need to be collected. Details can include information about the client's family, client goals and objectives, as well as the numbers like RRSP values or debt balances. The collected information is then analyzed to determine the client's current situation, as well as any opportunities, risks, or concerns. You will notice on the matrix that collection activities are divided into 2 columns. The competencies assigned as quantitative information deal with numbers like asset values or income amounts. The competencies assigned as qualitative information deal with softer facts, such as the client investment objectives or attitudes about retirement. Analysis activities are also divided into 2 columns: assess the client situation under column 2.1 and considers and evaluates strategies under column 2.2. Recommendation activities are shown in 1 column, develops recommendations to help optimize the client's situation. Competencies are sorted into rows for the fundamental financial planning practices and the financial planning areas, and those headers appear on the left margin of the matrix across the 2 pages of the document. The competencies listed in fundamental financial planning practices are tasks that are common to all of the financial planning areas. These are the abilities that deal with pulling everything together from all the different areas to come up with a client-specific financial plan. The statements of competency are assigned to the most applicable financial planning area of the 6 areas listed here, but of course, many areas overlap, which is not surprising given the integrative nature of financial planning. I encourage you to use the matrix and the entire competency profile document in your preparation. Work through each competency to understand the expectation of it and how you apply your knowledge to demonstrate the specific competency. Remember, application is key. A listing of the professional skills included in the FP Canada Standards Council competency profile for CFP certification can also be found on the matrix and within the competency profile document. These are the skills that speak to acting as a professional with clients and colleagues. These are the skills that speak to acting as a professional with clients and colleagues. They outline the professional responsibility to clients. The professional skills are sorted in columns under professional conduct, critical thinking, interpersonal, communication, and collaboration skills. Candidates are expected to have proficiency in the professional skills included within the competency profile. Those competencies assigned as professional skills will be integrated into at least 25% of the examination questions, and at least 10% of the CFP exam will integrate competencies from the professional conduct section of the professional skills. To help illustrate this point, let's look at the collaboration skill PS 503. It reads, recognizes when to refer a qualified professional to provide necessary expertise. When a client may be seeking the CFP professional's advice on estate planning and the drafting of a new will, for example, the CFP professional would be expected to refer those clients to a lawyer. Some questions may also have an ethical component and could test issues such as client confidentiality, insider trading, or unsuitable investment recommendations. The CFP exam blueprint details the structure of the exam, how sections of the competency profile are weighted on the exam, and can be found on our website. The CFP exam has competency-based questions, which means you will need to apply your knowledge and skills in resolving a range of different financial planning issues for clients. The exam consists of both multiple choice and constructed response questions. A larger portion of the exam is made up of constructed response questions, which require you to provide answers in your own words, as opposed to selecting the correct answer from a list. Each question on the exam has been given either a basic, moderate, or high complexity assignment. The level of complexity for an exam question increases if more knowledge is needed, or there are more variables to consider, or if you need to integrate and factor in a number of different elements. Since the CFP exam is designed to assess candidates' ability to apply financial planning knowledge to realistic financial planning situations for clients with more complex financial needs, there will be more moderate and high complexity questions on the CFP exam. The blueprint includes a description of the types of questions that may be encountered at each complexity level. The CFP exam blueprint details a range of weightings used when creating our exams. Each question on the exam tests competency statements from the competency profile, so it is tied to a function and a financial planning area and is given a complexity assignment. For example, if a question asks you to determine the client's cash flow shortfall in the event of 12 months of disability, this question would involve an analysis function in the insurance and risk management area and may be assigned a moderate level of complexity depending on the extent of the information being analyzed. Section A on this blueprint shows the weightings of the financial planning functions. There's a larger focus on the planning tasks involved with analysis and recommendation for the CFP exam. Section B shows the weightings of the financial planning areas and confirms that all financial planning component areas are tested, which emphasizes the importance of reviewing all topic areas when preparing to write the exam. And Section C shows the complexity weightings and confirms that there are more moderate and high complexity questions on the exam than basic complexity questions. Now, let's take a look at the financial planning body of knowledge. Technical knowledge is the first step for competent performance. The financial planning body of knowledge is essential to the demonstration of competency in the fundamental financial planning practices and the financial planning areas on the competency profile. You must first have the knowledge before you can apply it in an appropriate manner to a particular client situation. Knowledge around human behavior, decision-making, and relationships are important for the demonstration of professional skills. Appropriate levels of knowledge are required for the financial planning tasks and skills to be done. The financial planning body of knowledge can be found on the FP Canada website. It outlines the required 12 knowledge topics, and each knowledge topic has several subsections. Please keep in mind that just knowing the information is not sufficient for competent performance. You need to know how to use this knowledge in a client's situation to demonstrate competency. Let's look at some examples of how the body of knowledge supports the ability to do the task outlined in the competency statements. In the competency profile, the estate planning competency 1.120 in the collection area reads, collects information and documents that impact estate planning strategies. To do this task and demonstrate this competency, you may need to have technical knowledge about the importance of wills, but you will also then need to know how to use this knowledge, applying it to a client situation in order to demonstrate this task. Here's another example, Competency 2.202, which is an analysis competency in the financial management area, reads, considers potential credit and debt management strategies. Depending on the client's circumstances, you may need to be knowledgeable about revolving credit, cash, and investments, or perhaps rental income for investors. Then use this knowledge to assess the financial management options which are appropriate for the client. Paulette will now talk about examination prep.
So, how do you use this information to prepare for the exam and help achieve success on the exam? Preparation, of course, will be important for your success. And as already presented in this webinar, knowing what to expect on exam day and what is expected of you on exam day is important. The first step in preparation is to become familiar with the exam. A clear understanding of the type of questions on the exam structure, and its components will help you to develop a plan to prepare for the exam. You can get this information from the guide to the CFP exam, the competency profile for CFP certification, the CFP exam blueprint, and other supplemental materials, and of course this webinar. Develop a study plan that provides adequate time for reviewing items related to the financial planning topics and tasks detailed in the competency profile. Understand the exam structure as identified within the exam blueprint. Allow sufficient time to adequately review the core competency areas of collection, analysis, and recommendations for all of the financial planning components. This exam tests a wide range of materials, so you do not want to leave your studying to the last minute. I cannot stress enough how important the competency profile really is to your preparation. It is the basis for the development of the exam content, and each exam score point is linked to one of the competency statements included therein. Cross-reference the competencies and related knowledge with your education materials or other learning and preparation resources. As you consider the criteria and materials, ask yourself how the concepts and competencies could be tested or assessed. Think about the competency statements as exam questions. In the course of your study, try to identify questions that could possibly be asked on the test. Try integrating ideas from your lectures and notes that could be used to develop your own practice questions. Work on financial planning case studies. If you're working in the financial services field, think of client situations that you've dealt with and the tasks that were involved. Practice exams can be a valuable additional tool as part of your exam preparation and learning, but should not be the only tool in your exam prep. One recommendation, of course, is to practice using FP Canada's practice exam, as well as the sample questions available on the website. Not everyone, of course, passes the CFP exam on their first attempt. In preparing for a rewrite, be sure to review the diagnostic feedback from your previous attempt to understand your areas of strength and weakness. Spend more time preparing and studying in those function areas and topic areas that showed weaker results for you. You may also find it helpful to revisit the competency profile and exam blueprint as you review that diagnostic feedback and as you prepare to rewrite the exam. Allow enough time to develop a good study program. Plan your study prep time and incorporate it into your weekly routine. Do not leave it all to the last week before the exam. Think about your previous study habits and what worked well for you. Perhaps try some different methods, like a study group with colleagues, for example. And, of course, prepare and practice using competency-based material, like those financial planning case studies I mentioned. Laureen will now talk about FP Canada's scoring of the CFP exam.
Once you complete your exam, it is our job to get them scored. It's a big process, and yes, it takes some time to get it right. When constructed response questions are created, a detailed scoring key is developed, which breaks each question into separate scoreable marks and provides a complete list of correct answers. This ensures that each candidate response is marked using the same guidelines, parameters, and standards. Once exam day is over, the CFP exams are scored by a select group of specially trained practicing CFP professionals from across Canada who volunteer to be part of our scoring team. Each exam response is scored independently by at least 2 members of the team to ensure that marking is fair, accurate, and consistent. If the scores differ on the assignment of a mark, the answer will be rescored by a scoring team leader. We also rescore the complete exam for any candidate who is within a few points of either passing or failing the exam. We want to confirm the accuracy of the marks we are given to borderline candidates. We also assess candidates' answers in terms of ethics. Any concerns about potential ethic breaches are flagged by the markers. These flags are then reviewed to assess the gravity of the situation, and communications are sent to candidates to remind them of the importance of abiding by the rules included in the FP Canada Standards Council Standards of Professional Responsibility. The CFP examination is a pass or fail examination. It is not about a number. The goal of the CFP examination is to determine if you meet the requirements of competency to earn the CFP designation. We use psychometric methodologies to determine what the pass mark of the exam is, based on the expected standards. The process we use ensures that every exam candidate is measured equitably and fairly, even though each exam contains different questions. This is not a bell-curved examination and what is referred to as a criterion reference examination, where the level of competence expected is consistent from one exam to the other. All candidates have to meet the established standard, which is the same for each exam. This methodology is commonly accepted practice in the credentialing field for high-stakes certification exams. It allows FP Canada the confidence that every CFP professional is meeting the same industry-defined standard for competence. Paulette will now share some sample cases and questions.
So I have a sample constructed response question to share. There are sample questions that can be accessed through the FP Canada portal for you, and they're useful tools to help you prepare for the exam. So please access them to review and familiarize yourself even more with the types of questions to expect on the CFP exam. Our intent in the next few slides is really to let you see what a constructed response question looks like, the type of questions that are asked, the completion of the response template, and how the question is then scored. This case narrative presents Brian, his wife Kathy, and their family details. In the opening part of the case, we're given information about Brian's support obligations and the couple's employment details and their annual income. As the case narrative continues, it provides information about the couple's assets, their available RRSP contribution room, Brian's net capital losses, his life insurance policy, and beneficiary designations. Details about Brian's will are also presented. On this final slide of the narrative, we learn about Brian's estate planning objectives. He wants to provide for his wife Kathy, then on her death, he wants his assets to pass to his children once they are 25 years old. Income amounts concerning his desired level of support are provided, as well as his wish to pay out his support obligations. Brian has met with Marie, a CFP professional, to help him with his estate planning. After the case narrative, we have 2 questions to follow. The first question involves a life insurance needs calculation, and the second question asks about tax planning options available to Brian's executor on Brian's death. Let's look at these questions now and their response templates. This is the first question based on the presented case narrative. Determine how much additional life insurance Brian needs now to fund his estate planning objectives based on his current situation. The response template then follows. This is it. The question requires a time value of money calculation, and you will note that the calculator functions are supplied in the template for ease of data entry. Also, there is a blank calculations box for each section to show other components of the calculation if necessary. For example, if you prefer to use the formula for the time value of money calculation, it can be completed here. Also, in most cases, the calculator mode is given for calculation questions. For this question, For this question, it is in begin mode. In some tables, amounts may already be provided, as shown here with the 20,000 charitable donation amount. For some questions, the numerical answer could also be 0. And when the answer is 0, please ensure that you put either a 0 or spell out the word nil or the word 0. If the cell is simply left blank, no mark will be given. So here's the correct sample response. The amounts are taken from the details provided in the case narrative. RSP amounts and the value of the home are not included as available assets, which is in keeping with Brian's stated wishes. You'll notice that the marks are allocated at various steps of the calculation, where the answers are indicated by the values in orange here for our review. Now, let's see how this response ties to the demonstration of competent performance in doing the task detailed on the competency profile. By correctly answering these questions, candidates have demonstrated that they can apply the information given in the case narrative to analyze how much life insurance Brian needs to meet his estate planning objectives. You can see that each of the required tasks in the ask is tied to a competency statement from the FP Canada Standards Council Competency Profile for CFP certification. In this example, the competencies are from the analysis function in the insurance and risk management planning area. This question was assigned a moderate complexity rating since there are multiple calculation steps required to arrive at the correct answer. The correct response would earn a total of 3.5 marks. The next question looks at tax planning opportunities. Again, it's based on the information provided in the case narrative. And here's the template for that question. The question asks for 3 ways to reduce Brian's taxable income, and 3 boxes are provided. Please put only one answer in each box, as any more than that will not be marked. The correct sample response lists 4 possible correct answers. Any 3 of these would be marked as correct by the scoring team. In marking the exam, only the first 3 answers would be marked. Anything more than that would not be graded. In correctly doing this task, the candidate has demonstrated a recommendation competency in the tax planning area and earned 3 marks. Again, each mark is tied to a competency statement from the competency profile. There is a constructed response sample question available through your FP Canada portal. To access it, log into the portal, click on Resources in the top navigation, and select CFP Exam Sample Questions. Some of the sample cases have a number of questions attached to them, and some will require calculations, and some will not. As well, there are 26 multiple choice sample questions to help you prepare for the CFP exam. FP Canada offers the FP Canada practice exam for the CFP exam to help you prepare. It can be purchased when you register to write the CFP exam. The practice exam offers many benefits. You can become familiar with the type of questions to be used on the exam. The exam structure and blueprint ratings are similar to those used to build the actual exam, and you'll get practice and become familiar with using the exam software. Once you complete the CFP exam practice exam, you will self-score your responses using the scoring templates provided. This will allow you to familiarize yourself with the scoring process and understand what is considered a correct answer and why. It takes time to self-score, but it is worth it as it provides you with a very good sense of the structure of the answers and the expectations of the scoring process. With the self-scoring, you will review the correct answers and their rationales. This also presents another opportunity to review financial planning materials, providing really an enhanced study aid. The practice exam can be written only once, but can be done over multiple sittings to a maximum time period of 9 hours. We recommend you begin your review of the practice exam early to maximize its value, and recommend that you allocate time to write it as if you were completing the exam in 3 two-hour sessions. It's available for $175 plus applicable taxes when purchased with exam registration, or for $200 plus applicable taxes if purchased after you've registered for the exam by accessing the link to the portal. The exam is refreshed on at least an annual basis. When you've completed the practice exam and the self-scoring, a diagnostic feedback report will be provided, which shows your performance in the various financial planning functions and areas based on the blueprint. The report can help you determine areas where more study and preparation may be required. It can also be accessed for review multiple times up until exam day. You'll get the answer to all questions on the practice exam and the rationales explaining the correct and incorrect answers. Although these are different questions than the ones on your actual exam, the practice exam uses retired questions from previous exams. The practice exam is designed to meet the test blueprint, which means it meets the weighting ranges for each financial planning function, area, and level of complexity. Also remember to consider that you're completing the practice exam in a setting which is different than the actual exam day experience, so the practice exam is not a predictor of your exam success. We suggest you open it up soon after purchase to ensure that there are no technical difficulties accessing it and answering its questions. So we're often asked about study tips and the do's and don'ts when it comes to preparing for and writing the exam. Laureen will now run through a few pointers to help improve your success in writing the CFP exam. Some of these tips come from common mistakes that we've seen candidates make in the past.
The first issue concerns time management. Candidates sometimes overthink questions or spend too much time trying to answer the question. This is especially relevant for the constructed response items, where the mark allocation differs from question to question. You don't want to spend too much time answering a question worth 2 marks and then not have enough time to answer a question worth 7 marks. Another mistake can be given more answers than required for the question. If a question asks to provide 3 concerns relevant to the client situation, please only provide 3 concerns. Any extra responses will not be marked, whether or not they are correct. Also remember, this is a timed exam, so giving more answers than required will take up valuable writing time. And finally, something we refer to as knowledge dump. This can occur when candidates are unsure of the correct answer and put down everything they can think of, with the hope that something will stick and earn them some marks. Again, this is not a very good strategy for a number of reasons. It takes more time to type in all of this information, and it does not demonstrate to the scorers that the candidate knows the correct answer. Also, the scorers are only marking the first answer provided. The other information is not considered. Here are some useful tips to help with effective time management. Manage your time carefully and have a plan. Be aware of the time available for you to complete each session of the exam. Review the number of questions in each exam session and the marks assigned to them. Each multiple choice question is worth 1 mark. You might want to consider getting your marks first by answering as many as possible and bookmarking the questions that take more time to answer so you can come back to them. A summary of the constructed response questions and their mark allocation is provided as a resource in the software. This summary helps you to be mindful of the marks assigned for each question and an awareness of your planned time allowance per question. The exam software will allow you to move to any question within your 2-hour exam session, so you're able to answer them in a different order. And again, answer what is being asked. If the question asks for 3 advantages for a particular strategy, then provide just 3 advantages. We already spoke about the CFP exam being a competency-based assessment, meaning we are testing your use of knowledge in addressing clients' financial planning issues. This means the correct response needs to address the client's needs and objectives. Marks are not earned when the answers provided are not relevant to the client scenario presented. All information needed to answer the question is given in the case scenario, and you are to work with the set of facts presented. There is no reason to add additional information or make assumptions. No marks are given if the answers provided are general in nature and not client-specific. You need to provide solutions that are specific to the client's situation. For example, what is it about this strategy that is appropriate for this client's particular situation or objectives? No marks are given if the answers provided focus on product features as opposed to client benefits. For example, in a question assessing suitable insurance solutions for the client, you need to present how this insurance option is appropriate for clients to meet their needs. If you simply list the features of the insurance policy without tying them back to the client's needs, no marks will be given. So always keep the client in mind. Responses are to be based on the facts presented in the case. You need to work with the information given. For multiple choice questions, 4 options are provided. Keep in mind the client's stated goals or objectives. The 3 incorrect options are plausible and could apply in a different situation, but are not the most appropriate solution for this particular client scenario. For constructive response questions, ensure all answers always relate back to the scenarios presented and they are appropriate for the client situation. In some cases, an unsuitable response may involve issues around ethics and professional standards. For example, the client may have a low investment risk tolerance, so to switch to equity investments to help improve the rate of return would not be a suitable option for this client. Questions will ask you to provide a strategy or recommendation and explain why it is appropriate for the client's particular situation. It is all about using knowledge to arrive at a client-specific solution.
We wanted to
I'm
provide an example to help illustrate this point, since a lot of marks are missed by candidates because the answer given is too generic and has not recognized the specific details of the client's circumstances. You need to take that extra step and identify why this is important or relevant to the client. This simplified scenario features Todd, who's retiring early due to health problems. He is a conservative investor and needs to make a decision about his pension, either select a pension benefit or transfer the commuted value. If he transfers the commuted value to a locked-in plan, investment risk is a consideration for him, as it would be for anyone. So if the response simply states that he will assume the investment risk, no mark would be given because we asked, specify whether the consideration is relevant to Todd's situation, and that response would apply for everyone. However, if the answer goes a step further and is expanded to include details about his investor profile and comfort in assuming this level of investment responsibility or his ability to earn a return to provide an equal or higher benefit to the pension option, then marks would be awarded because the candidate recognized the specific client details that were relevant to his decision. The post-retirement health benefits would also be a consideration for him in his pension decision. They will continue with the selection of the pension option. But again, this would apply to everyone. So no mark is given if this is the extent of the answer. Again, the question asked why the considerations are relevant to the client. So what is it about the post-retirement health benefits that make this consideration especially relevant to Todd? It is his own health problems that make this an important consideration for him. If the answer is expanded to include that information, then the mark would be given. Make sure your recommendations or explanations recognize the individual client circumstances. Identify them and state how they are relevant to the personal planning for the client. So, although this next step seems very obvious, it's surprising how many candidates provide a response that does not answer the question. For example, the question may ask to identify financial planning concerns of the client, but the candidate may provide an answer which provides recommendations. This response has not answered the question, which asked only to identify concerns, and so would earn no marks. For multiple choice questions, candidates may select an answer without reading the entire question and miss relevant information. Often the question requires candidates to identify the most appropriate action. So it is important to read all of the details to be able to select the most suitable one based on the client needs. Sometimes candidates may add or assume information from outside the scenario and include it as part of their answers. For example, if the question asks to ignore inflation, then there's no need to try and factor it in. Please remember all of the information you need to answer the question is provided. For constructive response questions, sometimes candidates will be asked if a particular strategy will meet the client's needs. Rather than providing and supporting a definitive yes or no recommendation, candidates provide an answer which gives why the strategy could be both suitable and unsuitable. With this type of response, they have not presented a viable solution and will get no marks for that type of answer. The candidate has not demonstrated that he can provide the client with a clear and distinct recommendation. So, always read the scenario and questions carefully. Please ensure your response answers the question. In developing the exam, we pay attention to the word count. So, all of the facts given are relevant, and everything candidates need to answer the question is provided. So, be sure to assess all the information presented in the question, and also recognize that some questions are more basic and straightforward and might be easier to answer, so avoid overthinking those ones. Questions are developed and written in plain language and only include information that is needed to arrive at the correct solution. We never try to trick candidates with our questions. We're looking to assess competency in financial planning tasks. Candidates also have to be concise in their answers. When asked to make a specific recommendation and support it, then that is what the answer should do. We're looking to assess the ability to give a distinct solution and provide the client with a suitable recommendation. All of the materials we've discussed today and more are available at the FP Canada website as linked on this page. This concludes the webinar. Please visit our website, fpcanada.ca, and go to your portal to access the sample exam questions or to purchase the CFP exam practice exam if you haven't already. If you have any questions about the exam, please email us at info@fpcanada.ca and we will respond. We would also like to remind you to refer to the guide to the CFP exam since it likely addresses many of the questions and concerns you might have. Enjoy the rest of your day.